So if God is a perfect consciousness, then to become like that is the best possible goal.
Hey guys, welcome to the Rational Optimization Podcast. My guest today is Ansar Bajwa. He's an cognitive science and artificial intelligence student here in Tilburg University from Pakistan. And he has a growing Instagram account where he posts short thoughts about philosophy and life. And during our conversation, I found out that he strongly believes in God. And I really challenged him, especially like putting evolution versus his arguments for God. And it was super interesting, like the connection between evolution and altruism. And it's so cool to talk to someone that is on one end that is so rational. Like he's really open to rational arguments, but still really deeply convinced of God. We also went deep into the difference between something that feels good and something that feels right. And as I said, I really enjoyed this. Enjoy.
Nice. Okay. Repeat your thought.
All right. Yeah. So I thought instead of in formal deduction, instead of coming up with a conclusion and then trying to justify it, what if we come with premises? Because I'm sure we have experiences and we have things that we know, okay, this has to be true. You might not know the whole thing, but you might know, okay, this thing just has to be true. There's no other way. And what if we come up with those premises? So you give a few, I give a few, and then we try to see where they take us.
Oh yeah, okay. So we come up with what we believe to be true, and then we build our actions from this, or
we basically build
beliefs.
A number of premises that we know, for example, you shouldn't lie. We know it's pretty sure that that's not a good idea. Or you shouldn't hurt other people, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. But we can, obviously, it's not going to be that basic. But you would have ideas that it's okay, this has to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And then we might get closer to some possible. Then we see what we can derive from those premises.
So as a better way than just starting with, when you start with the conclusion and reason why this is true, this is
it might be, I don't know, it might be, I'm just, Because I do have a conclusion as well, if you want to start there, but I thought this might be kind of cool.
I think so as well. How about start with your conclusion? So
okay,
if you think it fits, then
sure. Are we recording?
Yeah, we are
sure.
recording.
Right.
We just started to record.
Sure.
In the first second.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
I told you, for the people listening, I told him that we will just talk a bit and then we start the recording, and now we just started right in. So that's it now.
Okay. So I have two versions. One is more of a secular version, and one is a religious version. But they're the same. The wording is different. But it's just so it appeals to a larger group of people, and so it makes sense to a larger group of people.
So it's what you believe to be the right thing to do, or what you believe is the meaning of life?
I think these are I think everything that's worth doing is some variation of this, or it connects to this.
Okay, nice.
And I know that's what you're looking for.
Yes,
because you use the word objective a lot.
I try,
and I think that's kind of what I had also been looking for a long time. And I don't have the perfect answer, but I have this answer, and I think it's really close.
Okay, tell me, man.
It's only got two parts, which is good. The first part is self-improvement, and the second part is being of service to others. And now, I'm religious, I grew up religious, I believe in God. So my version of this is to establish a connection with God and to be of service to others. So now self-improvement and having a connection with God are actually the same thing. A lot of religious people don't see it that way, but based on what I've read and what I've seen, I think it's actually the same thing.
What do you mean by, how do you mean this? Because praying is not self-improvement, or is it?
It should be.
One short question.
Yeah.
The Christian God? Or
Muslim.
Yeah. Well, Muslim God?
Yeah.
Muslim. Okay.
But prayer should be, it's basically like meditation. It's basically a meditation. It's basically like a way of purifying yourself, but then spiritually. And the idea is not to just, to do it without thinking, but you're supposed to like think and use that as a means of progress, basically.
Okay, so wait, you believe like praying is self-improvement because when you pray, you it's like meditation, and when you meditate, this is also good for.
I mean, there's different
yourself,
elements of
or-
it. Of course, you have to. So, like, you have to believe in that there's a God that's going to listen.
Yeah.
And that
Ah,
part is much
okay.
harder to explain, right? Like, I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
So, but then, so you say a lot of prayers, for example. I'll give you an example, actually. I have one here.
Nice.
So, I don't know a lot about other religions. I know the basics, but for Muslims, we say, we have, like, there's a structure to it. So we pray 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And there's a very rigid structure to it.
Yeah.
And you say the same things, not every single time, but a lot of the parts of the prayer, you say the same words over and over again. And the idea of that, for some people, they just think, oh, that might be useless because you're just saying the same thing over and over again. How is that going to help you? Multiple times a day. But the idea is that these prayers are like templates. At least, I mean, I don't claim to be like the most knowledgeable on this, so I have to say, like, this is my current understanding as someone who's 24 and still figuring things out. But there's a kind of like templates or buckets that you have to fill with whatever's going on in your life right now. And the prayers are designed to kind of encapsulate every aspect of your life. So first of all, I know that you'll like this one.
Tell me.
So one prayer we say a lot is, guide us to the straight path.
Mhm.
Now, most people know that the shortest path between 2 points is the straight line. And that is basically saying, guide me to the straight path, to the shortest path. Now, every single day, if you're saying this like 30 times a day, every time you could be saying this about something different. This could be, I want to bench more, guide me to the shortest path. Like, what do I have to do? This could be about nutrition. This could be about your relationship, your parents, anything. And now there are multiple examples of this. There's only a few that I'm currently aware of, but this is a good one. So that's kind of what you have to do. And once you take the mental load of actually thinking things through and then applying them, only then will you derive the benefit. It's not like just saying these words is going to do anything, although that does have some level of effect, right? Affirmations they do tend to work, but you have to really think it through and you have to take your time and you can't rush it. And it's obviously a very slow progress, but that's kind of the idea of prayer being something that guides you or helps you.
So you say the same thing every time, but the context in which you think about it can be different, right?
Yeah, and then the contexts are so huge that you could think about it your entire life and you might never completely get it still. There will always be something more to do. And I think we can, like, the gym is a good example of this, right? You never really get there.
Yeah.
Right? You never get there. No matter how much your nutrition is perfect, no matter how big you get, it's a never ending path. And the same thing you could say about like the path to God or the path to that kind of self-improvement. But
Okay. Wait, about this prayer thing. First, do you pray 5 times a day?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have like an alarm?
Yeah.
And then do you do the thing with like kneeling down in direction of Mecca and stuff?
Yeah,
and like, okay.
So you
That's
have like a
cool.
prayer mat, and then you do it, and then there's structure to it, and then there's also like a free play kind of thing. Like you can also pray for whatever you want and just talk, but there is a structure to it, and there are physical positions as well, and I think now we know that the position your body is in, your posture affects how you feel mentally, and that is also a part of it. I mean, there's a lot. I'm very ignorant on this. I mean, I'm still learning a lot about this, but even the different postures that you have in the prayer affect you spiritually and mentally, and they allow you to access like different thoughts and parts and emotions of yourself. And it's very recommended to cry in your prayer, to really cry, to bring about emotion. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But this is like not Not 5 times. Like you
Yeah,
try.
we're not
but
going to cry. I
it's
mean,
hard.
if you have to, you have to.
Yeah.
But it's suggested that it's good to cry. I mean, yeah.
So when you have such a prayer, it's like there's like a fixed way of doing it, and then you have like a little bit of freestyle.
I mean, there's different like positions. Like you have different like stages in the prayer, and every stage has a structure, and within that structure you have some room. Mm-hmm. So you have to read these verses in this part every time, or you have to read these prayers and these parts, and in these parts you can say whatever you want. And that's kind of like that. And then you have different like physical positions and different things. And yeah, it's kind of supposed to be like that you're kind of leaving this world for a bit, that you're kind of like going into like a state of almost departure from this like physical existence, and you're kind of trying to focus on yourself and God. And it's I don't think I've ever reached that stage. Maybe it's very hard. It's a very hard thing. Even if you do it 5 times a day, you still think, well, by now you should be good at it. But it's still really hard. And it's like, yeah. But now basically the idea is like the reason why I think self-improvement is the same thing as saying establishing a connection with God is because the way you define God is, I mean, defining God is really hard, understandably, but you have like attributes of God. So, for example, like merciful and all forgiving and things like that. And the idea is that you have to kind of take those attributes from him and apply them to yourself. And it's quite interesting. Like also when you love a person, you start taking their attributes, right? Kind of like when you really love someone.
You start what with their attributes?
You start like taking their attributes. Like they might say something, you might start saying it too and you won't even notice.
Yeah, true,
or they might like a specific food and you might have hated that food, but now you love it.
Yeah.
And a similar concept applies to this. So it's kind of like, you have to. So if God is a perfect consciousness, then to love that consciousness and to become like that is the best possible goal.
And it is, and it is self-improvement, true.
It is self-improvement.
Because if God is like the perfect thing and you strive to become more like him, then you improve. Yeah. It's like the definition of self-improvement. Literally. Yeah, true.
And then you can't only just be doing that. You have to help others. You can't just like sit in a room and pray all day. That's actually not recommended. That all you do is pray. Mm-hmm. That's actually not recommended. Like you should go out. You should have friends.
Are there not like something like monks or something also in Islam? Or because
that's like Buddhism, I think. But like, they do that.
In Christianity, they are monks as well, They're only in the chapel and pray. I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, you have periods when you can do that, but you can't do it for like your whole life. I don't think that's recommended because the idea is to, like, imagine you go on top of a mountain and you find God, but you never come down to tell people about it.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? I mean, you have a point to yourself. Like, sure, you found God, good for you, but like you didn't tell any other people about it.
Yeah.
So you're kind of going against an attribute of God by not sharing truth,
mm-hmm.
or an attribute of a good person. So that's kind of, so you have to be of service to others. And another idea I really like is that you can measure a person's connection with God by how he treats other people. And that's a very good way to kind of, so like, you see a lot of religious people that call themselves religious, but then they're treating other people like garbage. And you're like, no, whatever God you have is not the God. It's
yeah. What about people that don't believe in God but treat other people good?
Good question. I think you can be moral mm-hmm. without believing in God, but to reach the highest level, I think that might be necessary. Because and then from what I believe and what I've read, I don't think it's fair to say that. Well, you can't judge other people based on these criteria. Like, I believe in God, you don't believe in my God, so you suck. So you can't. You're literally not allowed to place judgments on other people and their status based on what they believe in, because of course a lot of people that might not say they don't believe in God would be morally superior in a lot of ways. It's quite funny because based on this definition, people who are not religious might be closer to God than religious people. And then, yeah. So I think it works out. But at the end of the day, I think the main idea is you can't really judge people, and you can't really say to other people that, oh, you're going to go to hell or something. That's like a horrible thing to say. And it's literally like you cannot say that to someone. It's really, if someone says that to someone else, I think it's kind of like, it's messed up.
I think so as well, but I know that many people that believe in God believe that. Like I don't like. I think in Islam probably also a lot of people, but I come from a background of Christianity, and a lot of my friends are Christians, and some of them believe that like if you don't, like Jesus said, I only know the German, like I'm the way, nobody gets to the Father except through me. And a friend of mine would argue that this is something that tells that God says only people that believe in the Christian God come like to heaven. And I think in Islam, like
I think
there's also like
say a similar thing.
Verses that say like only people that believe in Allah come to heaven, and everyone else is like punished.
I think it's like, I think it might be okay to claim that you have the best teaching, right? I think that's fairly okay to say, okay, this might be the right path, but you obviously cannot force people, and you cannot turn this into a monopoly. You cannot say, we go to heaven and everyone else is screwed. Right? You can't turn this into a monopoly, because that is, I don't know. I don't think, it's not the right way to go about it. You have to, like, just because someone might not believe in God doesn't mean that they're like less than you, or they might be better than you in way more things that you might not know. So it's quite like, and you have, because you can't live in a world. Imagine I go out with my friends and I'm thinking, oh, all you suckers are going to hell. That's crazy. Imagine living a life like that. That's crazy, right? How can you function?
Probably you would try to tell all your friends how amazing God is, and
you could do that, sure. Yeah.
And they have to believe in Him to not go to hell, because you want the best for them. But why do you think that this is not? Because I think in the how's the book of Islam called?
Quran.
In the Quran.
Yeah.
Okay. In the Quran, like it says probably there are like probably verses that say that people that don't believe in Allah go to hell.
Could be. Might be.
I'm pretty sure. Like all I know is like in school we once had to do like a presentation, and I had to research about what the Islam says about what happens to people, what happens after death, and there was like some pretty nasty things happening to people that don't that don't believe in Allah. But I don't know, maybe it's also there are different interpretations, and
true,
it's the same with Christianity, it's like or different. I always think this is like a tricky thing because you have this, like in Christianity you have the Bible, in Islam you have the Quran, and like, do you believe 100% in this book, or like? But if you believe like 50% in this book, like why do you believe in this part and not in the other part? And this is like a
I mean, I
balance.
think that's like studying the Quran is something I have to do a lot more than I do right now, and like it's a big task, and I have to do it. But I think with the right interpretation, ideally the entire book should be true, because why wouldn't it be? If you believe that God wrote this, then it has to be true, and you have to find the right interpretation. For example, there's people that believe that if you leave Islam, that you can be killed, and they try to prove this from all sorts of ways, and then that's crazy. That's wild. And then there are other people, the authors I read, that are like, this is garbage. That's never happened, and when it's happened, that was obviously wrong, and you cannot do this. And it's just different people, and people that say, I mean, I don't know. It makes no sense to me when you treat people like that. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
And yeah.
True. So you say it's like part of the interpretation. Like if you like,
I would say so, yeah.
It's about how you interpret it. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Mm.
But also, like a lot of people, I think religion is also personal at a very deep level, and I think people should first use it to improve themselves before they try to help other people. Right? At some level, you have to just use it as a really look at your own faults because you'll have enough, and then to work on them instead of trying to like push that onto other people. And it's quite funny because the people that push their beliefs onto other people are the ones that know the least. And you can see that, I think, fairly often. The people that will really push it and try to, convince other people are going to be the least educated as well. But
yeah, but still telling other people, because you said like if you are on a mountain and you find God and you don't go down to tell other people.
Yeah, I probably should.
But also don't tell other people if you're not, or don't try to push other people to.
I think the idea is to say the right thing and to express what you believe and to put it out there and then to let people be free to choose what they want.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we're doing. I'm not going to convert you by the end of this, right? I'm just
give me good arguments,
maybe
man.
The door is locked. But I'm just kind of expressing okay, I think this might be true. I think this is true.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing to do.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Before we go to the idea with the building premises, I want to stay on this a little more.
Sure.
So, why do you believe in God?
Ooh, it's a hard question.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, I grew up religious, right? I'm from Pakistan, but I grew up in the Middle East, in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not rich. Every time I tell someone I was born in Dubai, they think I have 4 camels and a building, but I don't. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
So I grew up with that religious. And it's a Muslim country, so everything is religious, and you have mosques and everything is open. It's pretty cool.
You have
mosques and stuff everywhere, and it's
mosque
really cool.
Is
where you pray like a church, but for us,
okay, yeah.
And I don't know. I've been on a similar journey as you, of what should I be doing? It's there's so many possible future worlds that could exist based on the decisions I make right now. What should I do? And to me, I've always found myself coming back to this answer, the one I just gave, that to find God and to help others. And I mean, I obviously had a phase in my teenage years where I was I don't know if this is true, science, evolution. But there's something about suffering that brings you back to it. And it's there's something about real suffering that strips away everything that doesn't matter. And you find yourself coming back to the basics. And to me, the basics have always been to find God and help others. But yeah, this is obviously something I'm still working on. But
so you say that you believe in God because you found him in the suffering, or
because in times of suffering you realize what doesn't matter, right? So everything fades away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that doesn't fade away was this idea that there's a God, and I might need to find him, and I might have to establish a connection, and prayer might be something that works, and I'll try. Oh, I think it worked, something crazy just happened. I really, sometimes you come back, sometimes you pray and you cry and you come back and it feels like something changed. And you could argue that that's purely physical, that your brain, because crying releases chemicals as well, and you feel better. So that's obviously good. But then things outside of your control start to get a bit better, and you're like, okay, that cannot be, there's no causal relationship between me crying alone in my room and something else completely out of my control happening. But the idea is that the more the more you like purify yourself, the better person you are, the clearer you can see God. So finding God, the prerequisite for that is to really fix yourself and to be worthy. And I guess I'm still in that stage of trying to be worthy.
Do you believe God only shows himself to people that are worthy?
No, not shows himself, as in, of course, he's merciful to everyone, logically, because that would not be a good God if he's only merciful to people that, if there's a selection criteria. But I think to be able to like really understand things, there is a prerequisite that you have to work on yourself. You have to rid yourself of what doesn't matter, and you have to work on yourself. You have to practice like speaking the truth, being good to other people, and then you get to that stage. I think it might be something like that. And I think I'm still kind of on that journey. I think it's a lifetime journey, to be honest. But you might get glimpses of it, but I think to really be able to like, enlightenment kind of thing, it's like, you have to like really like polish yourself. And then suffering is something that is said to be like a polishing agent for man. And through that, once you act right, you might be able to, for example, someone who lies too much might end up not being able to recognize the truth anymore, right? That's something a lot of books say as well. And I think now there might be studies on this as well, that if you lie a lot, because you have to convince yourself of the lie first to say it to others. So you could argue similarly that the more impurities or the more of these things that you have in yourself that you haven't worked on, the more incapable you are of seeing the truth. So the first step is to just kind of work on yourself and see what happens.
I get what you say. Still, the thing about the feeling God and stuff, like or like praying, crying, and feeling like, okay, something really changed, or God really did something, or even like outside, like I really get that. Like I was really religious as well when I was like, I don't know, like till I was maybe 16, 17, something like this. And I also had like experiences where we did like worship music, and I was like really feeling it, like crying and like, wow, God must exist, like this feeling. Do you think that this could just be like, you just said that it's like maybe physiological, but like just like this psychological confirmation bias, like, and also if you have like, you have God and you believe in him, and then you have like hard times, and then God is like something where you can say, okay, or you suffer, and then you can go back and say, okay, no, it's fine, like God is there, God supports me. So it's like something that gives you security in times of like suffering. And do you think this is an argument for God, that God exists? Because like, I don't see this as like an argument for the existence. No? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously the physical element of it, right? Like obviously something happens. But then I think in the previous in the episodes you mentioned like if evolution or reproduction is the only goal, then why would we do anything that risks it, right? More or less, like
that risks it.
That like so the idea is that if like people that have believed in God before have risked their lives for it as well. Like I think Socrates has a similar example where he was like teaching young people like philosophy, and they tried to kill him for it, and he accepted it. I think that's the story. Like he died. They make him take poison or something.
That's the story of.
And he willingly takes it, right?
Yeah.
And then like, but to me, it just seems like if he hadn't found something, why would he die for it? Because from an evolutionary point of view, that would be like the worst move, Like, why would you do that? And then you have stories of false prophets that they're willing to die for the truth. Now we have enough history to prove that these are good people. People like Jesus, they're good people their entire life. They never lied. You know, they were generous, they were wise, they were good people. And then suddenly, why would they start saying things that make people hate them and make their lives harder? If it was all evolution and if it was all like for money or something, then they would never have survived through extreme hardships. But that, to me, that just feels like, okay, that's interesting. At least that's interesting.
So it's an argument for the existence of God, that people are willing to die for it, which is something that is against evolution, right? This is what you said. Like, as an argument for the existence of God.
Not just people, but I think like good people from the past, like Socrates.
Exactly.
Not just because people would die for most things.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a bad argument in that sense.
But did Socrates didn't die for Allah, right?
I think the thing about, so we also believe like that there's like all religions are actually talking about one God. Okay. Now that really joins everything, and that makes everything more. Every religion is talking about one God. Buddhism, Hinduism, everyone was in search of the same thing. You gave it different names, you know, all that happened, but everyone was looking for the same thing. And there is only one thing. Logically, you can't have, you know, multiple gods, like, because if a God is all powerful, you can't have two gods that are all powerful, because now they're not all powerful anymore. So the idea is that every religion is and has been looking for the same God. So yeah, I mean, in that way, it's like, okay, there is one path, and you can get to it, and people have been trying to get to it in different ways, and that actually helps you unite like with other people as well, because like they could have their slightly different version, but you still know, okay, you know.
So it's more about the interpretation of God than about, like, other gods are not. It's not definitely wrong. It's just a different interpretation. Like other religions.
Might be different interpretation of the same like phenomena. Because once you think about it that way, it also makes you more tolerant of other people, because you realize, hey, we're all looking for the same thing. And I think we all are looking for the same thing, right? I think more or less everyone is trying to just, find something.
Yeah.
And then that way is like, it makes you extremely, more tolerable. So if we are to think that Socrates was looking for God, and I believe in God, then I have to assume that it was the same God. Right? And all prophets, you know, it kind of connects everything based on what I believe, and that helps you actually respect other religions as well.
Yeah, but for example, like as a counter for this argument, like is that there are not only people that die for God. There are also people that die for their country. There are people that die for different causes.
Sure.
You know, it's not only God. So maybe it's not that far from evolution that you are willing to sacrifice yourself for a greater cause. Maybe this has like some evolutionary advantage, and this is nothing so special that like really comes from God. Like, if I understand you right, you said that as an argument for God, if people die for something, this is not built into them from evolution. And this is like an argument for why God should exist, because this would go against evolution if people die for something greater. But maybe it does not go against evolution, because people die for their countries, people die for other causes that they find like meaningful, that are not God always.
Fair enough. I mean, you could also connect it to God.
Yeah, okay.
You could connect it to God, because you could die for your parents if you had to, because that would be the right thing to do. You could still connect it, but I think it still comes down to like a higher purpose, right? If people are dying for noble reasons, for their country or for something like that, you could still connect it to God, technically. Because people like that has like, I think that still connects to God, but I think the similarity between all of them is that it's something outside of themselves, right?
Yeah. That's
at least that's interesting, right? Like it's something outside. That's actually one of my premises.
Yeah.
Speaking of the premises, it was like one of my premises for whatever the meaning is it is related to being of service or to making a difference outside of oneself. So it cannot just, I don't see the point in living for your own pleasure. There's this quote and it says, I don't know what we're here for, but it's definitely not, we're definitely not here just to have fun. For some reason, just the mere satisfaction of your own desires and pursuing your own happiness seems worthless to me. Happiness is not a good goal to me.
Yeah, I
right?
agree. Like the pure happiness, yes. Like
bliss, like enlightenment,
sure.
Yeah,
there are different types, like.
But I feel like that only comes from something outside of you. I think you cannot only get that from fulfilling your like animalistic desires and just thinking that's gonna make it better.
I have a counter to this one as well.
Sure.
Okay, so so the argument is that there must be something more than just the hedonistic, like searching for something that feels good. You know? Okay. So and this something that you said is probably like helping others, making a positive impact, right? Okay. So I believe that yes, it like the argument for this was that it somehow doesn't feel right to just live like a hedonistic lifestyle. You know what hedonistic means?
Yeah.
Like hedonistic, for people listening, is to just do the most pleasurable thing. Like hedonistic, if you live like the perfect hedonistic life, then you only lay on the couch and eat, like drink wine and eat like sweets and stuff and have like the most, try always to do the most pleasurable thing. And if you ever tried, like this feels empty somehow.
It does, right? Yeah.
But I don't think that this is an argument for why the meaning in life, like for why an objective meaning in life should be not just pleasure, because like evolution could explain why you never really truly feel good. You know, like evolution. If at some point we would be like, now I have like all my wishes satisfied, then we would stagnate.
You would just die.
Like, you maybe you would not even just die, but like imagine there are two people, like they are like emperors of like a nice big, like 2000 years ago, they are like emperors of like a kingdom, and they can theoretically have like everything they want. Like they are and one of them is like has like the mutation of being fine, like, oh, I have like my wine, I have like my wives, I have like a good time, I have no aspirations to do anything else anymore. And the other guy has like his wine, has like his wives, but it's like somehow this feels empty, I want more, you know? And the person that wants more is the one that probably gets more, and the ones that probably manages to get his genes spread, because he will attack the other guy and then take his wives as well, you know? Like,
and his milk and his strawberries.
yeah, exactly. And so I don't know if this was a clear way of putting it, but it could be an evolutionary advantage to not feel satisfied ever. Like when you feel satisfied, then you don't do anymore. Evolution wants you to go for more.
But then
go for more.
Don't we have people that are happy, or they have things settled, but they're still doing good for others? Is that, I don't know. I feel like that's possible though. I mean, there's always a sense of like suffering though. That's fair. I think there's always a sense of like, that's true.
But okay, you just said that there are people that feel satisfied, like as encounter, like it is maybe it's possible.
Actually, maybe that might not be true. Actually, I think everyone has some level of, I think like suffering is just there.
Yeah, I think maybe it's possible to, if you work really hard, you can like override your biology, like the Buddhist monks that like really try to. Maybe for them it's possible to be like come on a level where they are just satisfied and just sit and just be okay with whatever is. But this is really hard, and I think this is not our nature. Like you have to. I think maybe it's possible to learn to be just satisfied, but I'm not sure if.
I mean, it's not even productive, right? Like, it might not even be entirely productive to not suffer.
For yourself?
Just in general, I think. Like, I think suffering for yourself is. I think it depends on what you suffer for. And maybe a new way of like defining this would be, what's the best thing I can suffer for, and then to suffer for that.
That sounds really nice, yeah. But the problem is, what is like where do we get this better or not better? Like
yeah.
Like,
I've heard you say this before.
what is better and not better? Like of course, like if there is like one objective goal, then you can say stuff like this. Like it's nice to suffer for something that's worthy. Like I also saw like one of your posts. You have like an Instagram account, and this post was like, what matters is who you become, not what happens to you. Like it's like, but why does it matter? Like if why does it matter what you become? Like you have to first define like something that is better to become before, because like okay, maybe it doesn't matter what happens to you, but maybe it also doesn't matter what you become. Like I don't.
Yeah, but then if I am to define God as the perfect being, then there is a ladder, right? Then there is a thing, and then so if you define God as the highest point of all morals, then the idea of what matters is what you become, not what happens to you, is that you have to move in that direction no matter what happens. So something bad could happen to you, and you have to use that as fuel, or something good could happen to you, and you have to use that as an opportunity. And I think that's also like very stoic in a way, where they're like, okay, whatever happens to you, Marcus Aurelius talks about this all the time, right? I think one of my favorite quotes by him is like, the obstacle is the way. What stands in the way becomes the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, no matter what happens, you can use that to move in the direction you want to. Because your brain has the ability to turn anything into fuel. And actually my wallpaper of my laptop is the blazing fire makes flames and brightness out of everything thrown into it. And the idea is that no matter what you throw into this fire, it's just going to burn brighter. And it's kind of an idea regarding, and if you define the objective destination as God, then this makes more sense.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, then true, it is difficult.
You need a direction to say stuff like this. Yeah,
I do think so, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But with God, I understand. Because...
But like, here's the thing. You have like... So you have... Imagine you're playing chess. So the aim is to win the game, right? I think you have to kill the queen, right, to win?
Yeah, the king.
The king, yes. Sorry, queen. My bad. My bad. You have to kill the king to win. And you can't ask a chess player what's the best chess move of all time. That's not a good question, right?
It always depends. Yeah.
It always depends. So the idea is to get to the king, and in every instance of the game, a different move would be the best possible move.
Yeah.
But I think what your question is where's the king, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Because like this also this burning higher quote, like why do you want to why do you want to burn higher if you don't have something like God? Like of course it sounds like super nice and motivational and like we want to achieve as much as possible and like use stuff as fuel and stuff, but as fuel for what? Like you need a direction. Like what do you need fuel for if you don't have like something you want to, like somewhere you want to go at? Like,
but like that's my thing. Like with this definition that I said, establishing a connection with God and being of service. Yeah, so if I turn this into like a secular mode, it just becomes self-improvement and being of service to others. Yeah. Now, like to me, even if you don't believe in God, that still seems to be the best possible thing. I mean, what else is better than this? Like we can talk about this. Maybe there's something better. I don't know. But like, let's say there's no God, okay? Yeah. There's no God. What would still be better, considering we live in this world? There's suffering. We have other people. There's good and bad. We have an idea of what's good and what's bad. We have a brain that's rational.
Stop. Back.
Good and bad.
You just said You just said there's good and bad. Yeah. If there's no God. Why? Why do you believe that even if there's no God, there's good and bad?
That's a good question. I guess that depends. Yeah, that does. Ooh, I have to think about that. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to think about it now, or we can also make a talk about this another time? But I have another
That's a
question.
good question. Let me write it down. Hold on.
Write it
What was the
down.
question? Like,
if there's no God, why should there be good and bad? Because this is like a point where I really struggle with.
Because then you would need a new definition of what's right, and then you have to you would need a new criteria, right?
Yeah, like there. Yeah, exactly. What is good and bad? If there's no God, there's no. I don't have. I didn't find any reason for something being good and bad, except like our feelings, and our feelings are straight from like I believe that our feelings come straight from evolution. That they are something that is helpful for our survival, but that doesn't make our survival something like this is also like something. It just happened. Like there's nothing intrinsically good or bad in us surviving. There's nothing.
Yeah, what's the point of surviving?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like for me, it doesn't matter. Like even like if you really see like the big picture, it's like
Yeah,
there's no like without a God, it's so hard to find like what is good and bad exactly, and that's what I'm searching for.
no, it's good.
Um,
Could it be?
Yeah.
One of my other premises
Yeah.
was the best possible goal has something to do with love.
Why?
I don't know. It sounded cool. No,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just love is something that just seems like it's worth it in all areas of life, not just a partner, but with your family, with your friends, but of course, including a partner. There's something about it that just seems like this is it. This is good, and that's hard to like describe why, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy though. It's like, yeah, this is. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
But yeah, love, like if you go from your feelings, then suffering is like the definition of bad, and love is like the definition of good. Like,
but then suffering is not always bad, because if you love someone, it doesn't mean
for this can be good. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you love someone, it doesn't mean you don't want them to suffer ever. You want them to grow.
Yeah. Okay.
You want them to. You can't like that's the thing. I think Jordan Peterson said this as well. A lot of people have said this. If you love someone, you don't just want happiness for them.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Because like a lot of people think that way. Like, I just want to make her happy. I think that's a good thing. But you also want to help her grow if you really love her. You can't just do everything for her to make her happy, because then she's not going to grow.
Stop.
As a person.
Again.
Now you're going to say, why should she grow?
Exactly. Wow. You can read my mind. This is the problem. Why should, because, yeah, why? Yeah.
Why should a person grow?
There's no.
No, that's fair. If you strip God from the equation, I think it is hard for me as well.
Yeah.
It's hard for me as well. Let me think though. Yeah, because I always felt like if you're helping other people, then what are you helping them with, right? Like, even if you're reducing the suffering of other people, then what do they do when they have less suffering? Because if everyone is just reducing, because a lot of people say that we need to be like we need to help society, but what are we helping society with?
Yeah, what is the goal?
Right?
Exactly,
If the idea is, I want to be the best engineer who makes life easier for other people, but then what do those people do when their life is easier? Exactly. Just make life easier for others until we're all super easy, but then what do we do?
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing, right?
This is
right? You can't I don't like just saying I want to help society sounds cool on your CV, but it doesn't really mean anything until you have a direction, right? Because the idea, if there was a direction, then you could say, I want to help other people, I want to reduce their suffering so they can move in that direction. But if you don't have the direction, then you're just what are you helping them with? Like, there's no point of less suffering.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. Like, unless if you define that suffering is bad and like pain is bad, pleasure is good. Well, like if this would be a definition, then you could say this is a good goal.
But then we know that that's not the case, though. Because if there was no suffering, we would have never evolved, and we would have never existed, and we would have never grown. And there's a certain sense of suffering that wanted you to start this podcast. This podcast would not exist if this question wasn't in your head and that wasn't causing you some level of discomfort. So if you were avoiding pain and chasing pleasure, we would not be talking right now. Similarly, for me, I would not have started that account if there were more questions I was struggling with. Or all progress actually comes from suffering. I think it's quite obvious. Especially, the gym is again a really good example, right? It's a perfect example of like balancing suffering and then recovery, and then you get the most growth when you hit it at the sweet spot. You do just enough damage to the tissue, and then you let it grow.
Yeah. Problem. Even, all growth comes from suffering. True.
Yes.
But the
what are we growing towards?
Where are we growing towards? Like, I can see, like, if you would bring the argument that suffering is purely good and purely bad, and like pleasure is purely good, then I would try to debunk it. But now that you are going against it, I can steelman it or argue for it, because there is, like, I see the point. Like, imagine there's no God, and like, where do you anchor good and bad? And like, the most obvious and most
is yourself, your own gain, right?
Yeah, your feelings. Like what? Like, there are things that just feel bad, and there are things that just feel good, and maybe this is where good and bad comes from. Like, because it's so hard to find an argument for what is good and what is bad without God, But from your feelings, this works.
But then you're just like, you're kind of like worshiping your ego, right?
But what's the problem with that? Like, what is bad about worshiping your ego?
I don't think society would. I don't think it would kind of just be, kill or be killed, right?
Yeah,
would it be that way?
Yeah. What is, like, what is the problem about this? Like, like, of course I see the problem with this. No question. But
he's not a killer, guys. It's okay.
Not yet. No.
Wrong time to say not yet.
was a joke. So now, if there is, if there's no God, then it's super hard to define good and bad. So how do you define good and bad? You could use your feelings to define good and bad. So suffering is good, suffering is bad, and pleasure is good. Or like, what feels good is good, and what feels bad is bad. So this where you could anchor it. And now you say that when you live like this, then you just massage your ego. But
then what does your day-to-day life look like when?
That's the thing. It can look so, like, just because you think that what feels good is good and what feels bad is bad doesn't mean that you don't go to the gym. Because for me, it feels, even if the gym somehow like feels bad, it also feels good. Like, of course, when I'm doing my 3 kilometer rowing and I'm like dying and I hate it, it somehow feels bad. But if I'm done, I'm like, yes, man, nice.
But then why do you feel good? Do you feel? Why do you feel good? Does it feel good because you're going to grow?
Yeah, you're right.
But why are you growing? Why?
You're right. Because
that's an intense accomplishment, because you feel happy, because you're like, oh, I did it.
And
overcame something.
Exactly. And I work in a direction that I want to go. And where does this direction? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like, where does this direction come from? I think growing feels immensely good, by the way. Like, growing is something.
In all areas of life, like, even if you're like learning a language, for example, once you really have your first conversation in that language, you just feel like, oh, damn,
Yeah.
Like, or you're with someone and you really start to understand them. It's like, oh, wow, this feels amazing.
Yeah.
Or the gym, of course, or just understanding a concept.
I agree. Like, growth feels good. Wait. We're okay. So the problem, but this could be maybe how your day-to-day look like, because if you say I want to do what feels good, and we know there is like what feels good doesn't have to be what feels good doesn't have to be heroin, it what feels
could
good could be, but if you really want to live a life, like, if you say, okay, there is no God, so I want to be as happy as possible in my life, I want to, just because this is like this is the only point where I could anchor good and bad on.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if I believe this. I just argue for this.
Yeah, no,
so
I understand.
it's like,
Of course.
it's an idea. So,
Yeah.
You just use your you just have your feelings, like they are given, and there are things that feel good and there are things that feel bad. So you just, if you have nothing else to anchor good and bad on, then you just anchor on this. And the thing I wanted to say is, if you anchor your good and bad on your feelings, it doesn't mean that you only always live the hedonistic life that we were talking about, because somehow this hedonistic life is not the thing that gives you the most pleasure. Like, of course it's nice to lay on the sofa and watch a movie and eat like unhealthy stuff, but somehow it doesn't feel right.
It gets old after it gets old way too quick.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you feel that you don't want to live your life like this.
Yeah.
You really, like, your body tells you this is not right. This is not how I want to live. And so even if you say like my only goal is to feel good, then it can mean that I want to grow and I want to do stuff, and it can even mean that I want to help people, because helping people feels somehow really good. I don't know why, but maybe it's because evolution gave us the.
But I feel like that's like the lowest form of helping people, if you're just helping people so you feel good.
Yeah.
And then if you're only helping people when you feel good, you're not really helping them, because the moment it gets hard, you're gonna leave them.
Yeah, it would probably be better if you just tell yourself, I'm helping them because I want to help them, and then you feel even better when you help them. Maybe.
But then you're like lying to yourself, and now you're going down the deep hole.
But I think actually, isn't this what everybody's doing? Or like everybody that tells me, my goal in life is to help others.
Yeah.
I could argue, you only have this goal because you want to do things that feel good. So, and helping others is something that feels really good, and it's really in our evolution to try to help other people in our tribe. Like it's something that our body rewards us for. So we believe helping others is good. And the problem is, if you just say helping others is good, but you in real life you just do it to feel good yourself, like then it wouldn't work. Like, you have to believe it for it to work. Like, so it's something that just like slips into your mind.
No, that's true.
And that doesn't mean that it's like, yeah, and I guess for me it wouldn't work anymore, because I thought about this so much, and now if I would try to live this life, I would really have to find a reason, because I agree. If you say I want to feel good, I help others to feel good, then it's not the same as if I help others because I think helping others is good.
Yeah.
Like, this is the difference.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like if your own feelings are at the top of your chain of what you think is important, I feel like that you might make the wrong decisions.
Why?
Because, well, feelings are a horrible thing and they're very confusing, and like different feelings can get different actions from different people, and then depending on like what you could define good in a million different ways. That's also a problem. You could feel good in a million different ways. Some of them would be horrible, and you could still say, "Oh, I felt good," right? I feel like once you have something outside of yourself, that helps you. It gives you another anchor besides your own feelings. So, for example, with the example of God, you could love someone a lot, and helping them at this point might even be detrimental to you, but you do it because you know it's the right thing to do. And then even if you feel horrible, and even if you had suffered for it, you still know that the thing that was more important was your connection with God, and that this was still the right thing to do despite your feelings. And then it helps you override the sense of suffering. And then you realize, hey, I suffered. And then you can actually wear that as a badge of honor. I suffered for the right thing. And I think that's like incredibly more meaningful than chasing your own definition of good, at least for me. And it doesn't have to be God, it could be, it's similar in a sense, it could be anything outside of yourself, your country, your family, people you love. Although all of those you can connect to God. You can suffer for your family and that would feel good. You can suffer for someone you love and that would feel amazing. That would feel better than like really suffering for someone you love and knowing you made a difference is like a million times better than living 80 years of strawberries and milk and protein shakes. Like, I would rather live 20 years and just die at 20 and had really like make a difference in the people I love, and instead of like 1,000 years of like just chasing my own feelings. It's just everyone knows intuitively that this is true. Why this is true, it's hard, but everyone knows that suffering for people you love is just...
You know what? I say, okay, everyone knows that this is... I don't... Everyone believes this. It doesn't mean that everyone knows that this is true. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same.
You have to experience it. You have to go through it.
And okay, and maybe, you're right. Maybe it does feel better. But then you still anchor on your feelings. Like, it's just a different way of anchoring on your feelings.
No,
it's
you're
just
not anchored on your feelings,
level.
though. You're anchored on what's right. And now, once you know what's right, if you have God, then you know what's right. And if you have your family, then you know that you want to help them. Or if there's someone you love, you know you want to help her. Then you're basically overriding their well-being is more important than your feelings. And now you have a more accurate way of like, okay, what should I do in this moment?
Yeah. Hey, bro, that's a really good thought. And I thought about exactly this thought. Wait, maybe I can find the note about this. Okay. Oh, it's in German. Oh, okay. I thought about it exactly this for like I once or like 1.5 years ago I lived with a friend in the Alps. We had like a hut in the Alps. I lived there for like a month, and I think for 1 week I just worked on this one thought. And it's exactly this what you or not exactly this, but it's the only goal of all humans is that to do the thing that feels right for them. And to do the thing, I was calling, I remember it, like I was like calling my friends and like discussing the exact formulation of it. I don't even, I just translated it because I haven't like translated this note yet. So the only goal of all people is to do what feels right. It is not like at first I tried the formulation. The only goal of all humans is to do what feels good. What feels good.
Okay.
But now I changed it to what feels right. Like not now, but like after like a week of discussions, because like my friend said exactly the thing that you said. Like there are things like that don't feel good, but that feel right, and this is the like you want to do what is right, not what is good. But you could argue that what is right is still the thing that feels good, like it isn't it that even doing what is right is doing what feels good, because like the of course, like when you have something that feels, if it feels right to suffer for someone else, it still, like, imagine you have a day where you suffer for somebody else because it's right. It's the right thing.
Okay.
And compare it to a day where you just do something that feels good. Like you just have like milk and protein shakes, and strawberries. like which day feels better? Like
I think the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. So the first one, the day where you suffered for somebody else, this day you felt bad, but somehow it felt better than the day where you just had your pleasures, because pleasures are like shallow. Pleasure is somehow. So I think this is the problem. Like, if you have to really define what feeling good and feeling bad means, because feeling good can mean protein shakes and milk and strawberries, and like TV, I don't know, on the sofa. This feels good, but suffering for someone because you believe is the right thing somehow feels even better. But it also feels not better because, like, by definition, suffering is not good. Suffering doesn't feel good. So, so maybe we still do what we.
It's not wrong to feel good though. That's what we have to first of all, because like
I agree.
I think there's better and worse ways to feel good.
Well,
so just because both of those situations, suffering for someone you love and protein shakes, both of them feel good, but one of them is way better. We know it's better by some metric. It's better.
It somehow feels better.
And people who describe finding God say it's the best thing ever.
Exactly.
So now you can't so feeling good is not the problem. It's just how you get there, or how. Yeah, I don't know how valuable it is, or how much of a difference. How right it is.
How right it feels, or how right you think it is.
Yeah. That could be like very subjective, and you could just think something is right.
But it is very subjective because so many people feel different things to be right. Like, do you believe there's? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you do because you believe in God. I just wanted to ask you: do you believe that there's an objective thing that is right, or is more right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I believe that the objective thing is this, but how it shows up for every person can be incredibly different because it's kind of the same chess thing, right? You have to kill the king, not the queen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And every move is different. So now imagine that chessboard is like 1,000,000 times bigger. And everyone has like extremely different things they have to do, but the end goal is more or less the same. But also something like love is something that's very, I don't know. A lot of people think it's quite close, like different experiences of people, and how they would experience it, and how, if it's really right, if you really love someone, not because you get something from them, just you really just love them and you just want to be there.
Yeah,
like there's something about
unconditional,
that.
Unconditional love.
Something about it that's a bit like
that feels really right.
Yeah, like this is like, hey, I would suffer for this, man. Like this is good.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Like even if this comes at an evolutionary cost, I don't care about the cost. Like even if this means like financial, loss or momentary suffering, in the long run, this is good. But yeah.
Wait, so we established that feeling right is somehow different than feeling good, but somehow also similar. But it's different. Like we can separate this two. Let's define words. Feeling good is having a protein shake on the couch and feeling.
And strawberries.
And strawberries, of course. And yeah.
How could you forget, man?
I'm sorry. So this is feeling good. And feeling bad is suffering. And suffering for something worthwhile is still feeling bad. But it's feeling right. Like suffering for something that you feel is right. This is like, okay, those are two words we use now. Feeling good and feeling right, okay? And we humans try to do what feels right. And you say there is something that is objectively, like there is something that guides this being right. Like there is some anchor that defines in what right is. It doesn't mean that every human does the same thing, because we are all in different situations. So the right thing is something else for each of us. Like
depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, because exactly. Every human is individual. So even if there is one like objective goal, it means something else for everyone. I would argue that this feeling right can also just come from evolution. This is just like the ultimate feeling good, or like there's something else that evolution gave us. Evolution didn't only give us the feeling the good feeling, but it also gives us like the right feeling.
Why is it giving us things?
Why?
Why?
Oh, yeah, I can explain. Oh, yeah, there's a pretty simple explanation. Okay, evolution, for example, suffer for someone you love. This is an evolutionary advantage. Like, imagine there are two groups. I always think like this. Imagine there are two groups. One group, they have the gene that they like to suffer for each other, and the other group, they don't have this gene. Which group will survive? I think the group where the people suffer for each other will survive because they help each other. You know, they are ready to. They really care for each other. They're not like I'm gonna leave those guys alone. Like, this group is much stronger, and so.
But I could argue that if there's two people and one of them suffers for others, and the other one doesn't, the other one who doesn't care is going to reproduce, and the one who suffers for others is going to die because he suffered too much.
I agree. Oh, that's, yeah. There are. This is the like altruism gene is like the gene that tells you to help others. There is a discussion about this on YouTube. There are videos. I don't know if you know them, but it's like little blobs that it's a guy that has like computer animations with like little blobs, and he gives those blobs like different. They are like on a board, and there's food on this board, and he gives those little blobs like different characteristics and lets them like reproduce and walk around. He makes like experiments, and he had like one experiment where he had like two types of blobs. One he called their hawks. Those are like they are red, and then there are the green ones, and those are like the doves, I think. This is how he called them. And on this board there are like always like pairs of food with two pairs, you know. And imagine now and he starts like with 50 of those red ones, the ones that are like that want to take everything for themselves. Tell me if you don't understand.
No,
like,
okay.
And 50 of those that are like altruistic. And he makes the rule. Okay, if two of the altruistic ones meet at like a point with two food, they will split. Each of them gets one, and none of them reproduces because they have one food, so it's enough to survive, but not enough to not survive, you know. And if one of the hawks, so one of the doves meet, the hawk takes both food, and like the dove gets home, dies. The hawk has two food and reproduces. So, and the next day there will be two of him, you know. But if two hawks meet, then they fight, and they both. I think he made like they have both 50-50 chance of dying or something, because
The one of them would die.
Yeah. And also if they fight, they don't have like. It's not that like one of them dies and the other has like two food, but it's like they would both use like energy for the fight, so they don't have enough energy to reproduce. And he made like this experiment, and he had like different versions of it. And for one, he started with like a lot of doves, like a lot of the green ones, and like a few of the red ones, and then the red ones increase, but there was like a stable point where it stopped, because like there is an advantage of being like self-interested. Till if everyone else is like super altruistic and you're the one self-interested person, bro, perfect. you're in heaven. Like it's perfect. It's exactly. But if and he did the same as well, the other way around. And I think somehow this altruistic gene also like it always was a balance. So it was never that there were only the red ones left, because there is an advantage of helping others. Like, I have to look into. I can link this in the show notes. I will write it down.
It kind of,
and
there's always there's always some amount of doves and hawks left.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also if you think about, maybe it's right that there is an advantage of being self-interested, but to what point? Because if you have a group where everyone is self-interested, this group will self-destruct, you know?
True.
Everyone will take from the others. This group will not survive. So every group needs a certain level of helping each other. And I would argue that the best group is the group where everyone helps each other. But the weak point of this group is, yes, there can be like one hawk in this group and be like, super nice that you all help each other.
I will just like 20 food.
Exactly. I will just take. But wait, the camera just went out. I will replace the battery. Sure. Wait, we are live again. So, what I was saying, there is an advantage of being not self-interested. Oh, this was a pretty long tangent. Like next time I try to keep it shorter. But there is an advantage of helping others, and of course it's not infinite, and you should still care for yourself a little bit. But it's also not infinite. Like it's also not the perfect strategy to always take for yourself, because that's, if there is one person in your group that always takes for himself, do you like this person?
No.
No, exactly. Do you like the person that helps others? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to help the person that helps you? If you have a person in a group and this person, just one is like, you can trust this person. This person will not stab you in the back. This person will always be on your side. I think then you will help this person more, because I can trust this person, so you help this person more. And who will survive in the end? You too, because you help each other.
Yeah.
And the guy that always stabs people in the back is like, yeah, maybe it works for the first 5 times, but then the people know, like, there's a backstabber.
Oh, he just stabbed 5 people, damn.
What?
He just stabbed 5 people.
Yeah, but
you have to stab him.
But like, still other people will know this.
Yeah, exactly.
So even I will not argue that being self-interested is purely bad. There are advantages to this.
Sure.
And you can't say like 100% this or 100% this, but I think from my argumentation you would agree that it's not in the realm of impossible that helping others can be something that evolution put into us.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, going back to feeling right and feeling good. Difference. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. I want to ask you more questions, but you sparked some really interesting ideas. This is really good topic. About your premises, we have to go through them, but I don't know if we make it today, but we try. Okay, feeling good and feeling right. So feeling right
requires another layer of direction besides your own feelings.
Yeah, but
and this layer is more important. So if you get this right, your feelings don't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But that doesn't mean that this is something supernatural. That feeling right has a supernatural explanation or something. Or I think feeling right.
But then is love just like survival?
I believe so.
Based on this?
Yes, it would mean this. Yeah, exactly. This is also like...
That's grim.
Yeah, it's super grim.
It's quite grim.
Yeah. But also, it's not, because it is what it is, Like, of course, we can all like say, oh, so sad that love is just a feeling, but it's still a pretty nice feeling. Like,
yeah, I mean,
when you say, I get your point. My argument just was the thing that feels right, maybe it's not right.
It could also be just evolution.
Just evolution.
Yeah, fair.
And this makes everything. This takes away, like when something feels right, but it's not right, it doesn't feel right anymore. Like, it only feels good. Like, there's those.
But then the issue is like, I think there's actually research on this, that your emotions can hijack your rational thinking. So you could like justify to yourself that this is the right thing to do, whereas you're just emotionally thinking. Like, you just want to feel better. You could justify your logical thinking will be hijacked by your emotions. I can find the research as well, but you can find like reasonable examples of this, like someone who, for example, is trying to give up smoking, and then they're going to come up with all sorts of extremely rational arguments for why they should start again, right? It's like there's obviously just an emotion behind it of seeking pleasure, and you know, everyone does it. I've done it too. Like you just want to feel better, and you justify it you try to trick yourself, and that makes things even more trickier than. So now that what's right and what feels good is getting more intertwined, and then what feels good is taking over what feels right.
Yeah.
If you don't have,
True. It's that you've.
So now you're still just doing what feels good. You're back to protein shakes, yeah.
Yeah, but not all the time, because the protein is
fair. But it's also like if love is only survival, then would you not love someone if your survival was at risk?
I think that it's an evolutionary advantage to still keep loving that person.
But what if you die? Then what?
I think, maybe you die, but you have to think in numbers. Let's say there are 100 people, and they love someone, and some of them are like ready to die for this person, and some of them are not, like 50% are ready to die for this person, and 50% are not ready to die for it. Or we can also make it like in shades, like the 100th person is really ready to die, and the first person is like, no, no chance. Who do you think will reproduce? Like, I think that there is an advantage to being ready to die for someone, because of course, maybe if we make like really the 50-50 split of the 50 people that are ready to die for this person, maybe a lot of them die for this person because like maybe 30 of them just die for this person. Yeah, shit. Now you don't reproduce. But the other 20, they are ready to die, but they don't die, because like being ready to die for someone doesn't mean that you just kill yourself. Like it means that you take risk where you have the risk of dying, you know? So maybe 20 people of them survived, and they also saved their partner, you know? And then they will reproduce for sure. And like the 50 people that are not ready to die, they go away. So the partner dies, and they have to search for a new one, you know? Like,
fair. I mean, that's true. I mean, I know that risk taking is actually a good evolutionary thing, because if it pays off big.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm really arguing for evolution today. I don't even know how this happened. I wanted to ask you a lot of questions, and now it was like 1 hour of arguing for evolution.
No, it's a good topic.
A question.
Sure.
It's a little bit of it's about God again. What do you believe is God? Do you believe God is, or no, like is it a man sitting in the sky that has like his own thoughts, or what is God?
That's really hard. That's genuinely really hard to answer.
Yeah,
because there's also like,
that's why I asked it.
There's like a logical argument that if God was so simple that you could understand him, then he wouldn't be God. But then that's not a good way to like dodge the question, right? You shouldn't just say, oh, God is too great, you can never understand or experience it, right? You can never experience anything he does. That's also like the wrong way to say it. I think it's something like, I think you can get to know God through experiences, and through like working on yourself and through prayer. But defining God like a concept, I think, I have no idea.
But how do you feel about God? Maybe this is a better question. Does it feel to you like a person, like some kind of better person, or is it just like something neutral, or something that is super far away from human thought?
Kind of like an ultimate consciousness kind of thing. I think a lot of people who don't use the word God use the word consciousness. Do you know Eckhart Tolle? He's
Yes.
German, right? Yeah.
Yes.
He actually talks
The
a lot
Power
about.
of Now is a book of him.
Oh, that book is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that book is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because he basically talks about God the same way we talk about God, but it's just the word is consciousness. Because he says everything in this world is a manifestation of this upper, like this infinite consciousness. So then you can say, and then religious people have been saying for years, everything is God. But if you just say everything is God, it seems to make no sense. But then if you say, oh, God is some form of infinite consciousness that is all wise, and everything is some form of it, now it starts to make sense. And when Eckhart Tolle explains death, he says that we all possess a bit of that consciousness, and when we die, we are reabsorbed into the ultimate consciousness. And as soon as I read that, like we have at funerals, you say a prayer in Islam, and the translation of that is, wait, let me find the exact one. So every time someone dies at a funeral, or if you hear of their passing, you're supposed to say this: surely we belong to God, and to him we shall return. To him we shall return is a very similar thing as to what he says with there's this ultimate consciousness, and you die and you're kind of reabsorbed back into it. But yeah, I think what is God, and that's also something I'm trying to figure out. But I also heard something interesting on this, where it was like a religious scholar was actually like kind of warning people that like people who are very intellectual to not make the mistake of trying to understand God, because that might be the wrong way to go about it. That you might lose your way if you just try to understand God like it's a laptop or a computer, like if it's like a concept in maths or something. That might not apply, because it applies to everything here, all these physical things, but the same ideas that we use here don't apply there. So it was kind of like this thing that, for the intellectuals who like to think too much about things, this is not how you go about it. This might not be the right way. And that was kind of scary to me, because I had been trying to figure it out. And I was like, okay, maybe that's not the right way. And to me, like, so I talked to a Dutch person who converted to Islam. And he's a psychologist. I'm not trying to convert you.
It's not me, by the way. Not yet.
And he was like, so obviously I grew up, studying. I'm at a university.
Wait,
so
you grew up studying?
I mean, like I grew up like academic environment as well,
Yeah.
right? So I always did not like religious people who weren't academic, and that kind of made me feel a bit like, okay, that's too much God, not enough science. I always had that bit of a like bias. But this guy, he's Dutch, he's educated, he grew up here, he's, I think, got a PhD or something. And he did like, I think 20 years of research before he converted, just kept reading papers. And I was like, damn, that's almost as old as I am. I need to call this guy. I got his number from a friend and I called him, and he gave me a few tips. And I was like, I don't know where God is. I don't know who he is. Like, I'm trying to work on myself, like things have been hard. I mean, I'm still here, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know where he is. I don't know how to find him. And he gave me a few tips. I think one of them was, well, prayer, right? The 5 daily prayers. He was like, you have to go at that. And one of the advices he gave was that to ask God to reveal himself to you. And that's just like, he just says, just do that long enough, and if you see something, you'll see something. And he also said you have to find company of good people, because that is an attribute, that is something that helps you, aids you in finding God. And that makes complete sense, right? We know that the people you're around, they affect you spiritually, mentally, in every way. And so if you're literally in people who are closer to God, that will actually help you automatically, and that will kind of increase your probability of getting there. It's kind of like a like a hack,
Yeah.
And That was really good advice as well. But all of his advice was like, in terms of effort, like you have to do the stuff. You have to do the stuff. You have to pray. You have to, speak the truth. You have to be good to the people around you, even if you get nothing from them. Especially when you get nothing from them, because it's kind of like you kind of get to say to yourself, like, this person has not done shit for me, but I will, I will be good because it's what's right.
Yeah.
It might not feel good, but it's what's right. And it's just, you keep doing that and you fall off, I do, but it's kind of just, and I guess that's where I am now, this trial and error kind of thing, to try to figure it out. But it's also another thing I should add is like, I don't really like when people think that rationality and religion cannot be the same. There's actually a book, and one of the on the back side of the book, it just says if rationality and religion are there, if there is like a contradiction between the two, there is something wrong with one of the definitions. So either your definition of religion is wrong, or your definition of rationality is wrong.
But didn't you just say that we should not try to understand God rationally?
No, but it's rational to not try to understand him rationally.
It's rational to not try to understand him rationally?
Yeah.
There. I give you this point. This is exactly how I would talk. Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, because that's when I listen to people like that, it's like people who are academics, people who believe in evolution, believe in science, people who are scientists, and yet they believe in God. Those are the people I listen to. And then I realize, okay, this makes sense.
Wait. I have to take the thing with it's rational to not understand God. It's rational to not try to understand God rationally. I was quick on agreeing.
I mean, in the sense that it's a different form of rationality, maybe. It's hard to explain. Wait, let me form my thoughts on this. No, it's a good point, actually.
Like, I was quick to agree because it's
sounds cool.
It sounds really cool, and it's a way that I would talk. The problem is, I forgot to ask why. Like, why should it be irrational? Like,
I mean, not really irrational, but maybe the previous example of like, you can't understand God solely through reasoning. Like we understand a concept or like a theory. It has more elements to it. But I think it would still be rational to come to the conclusion that God exists once you have all the science and stuff with it. For example, one example is the idea that the universe is going to end, like entropy. So if the universe is going to end for sure, that means it has to have a beginning. And then there's no real like idea for how it like begins. Absolutely.
Yeah, but God is not a good explanation for this as well. I can argue. Wait, before you answer, I want to. If you say there are rational reasons for why to believe in God,
yeah,
I want to debate you on this. We will not do this today, but today we keep on.
Yeah, because I have to prepare. Yeah, because I gotta learn.
I have to prepare as well.
Fair,
I have to, but we can debate on this.
That's fair.
Like a rational debate on if God exists or not.
And then again, we have to base it into science because I think that's what matters, right? Yeah. Especially for people at a uni.
Yeah.
So, but I have to I say that, but I have like very little knowledge on this topic as well. I have to admit, so I have to study as well.
Yeah, me too. I have to prepare as well.
Yeah.
If other people want to know stuff about this before we do this, Rationality Rules is a YouTube channel that is amazing about this, like arguments against God existence. So it's
fair enough. Now I have a channel that I will propose.
Yeah,
and it's called Rational Religion.
Oh,
checkmate! If you just type that onto YouTube, it's a YouTube channel with academics, but also people who believe in God, and this channel is amazing.
So Rational Religion versus Rationality Rules.
Yes, sir.
And the debate will be on the Rational Optimization podcast.
Yes. Too much rationality.
Too much rationality. Yeah, I thought about making a spin-off of this podcast that I call the Irrational Optimization. Just
what's that?
Yeah, like with Andre and some friends, just when we talk shit.
That's fair.
Just the irrational optimization.
The other podcast. Side of
exactly, because it's a little too much rationality sometimes.
Yeah.
Nah, I like this. I really like this rational thing.
Great.
Okay. You said some things. One thing that the thing you said, that you want to be good no matter how, like, you want to be good even to people, that even if you don't get anything back from people, you know?
Yeah.
You want to, yeah. This is a really good, like, just the fact that you say this and that I trust you, you mean this, is like, is a reason for like, like, I want,
For you to trust me?
I trust
Yeah.
you, you know?
Okay.
And I want to, like, I would choose you about so many other people. Like, if I choose a person I want to work with, I would choose you about many other people, because I know that you won't stab me in the back. And
Because
this
I
is
believe
like,
in God.
yeah.
Because I have another layer that's protecting.
And yeah, true. But I think there are also, like, Mark it's a friend of mine. He has arguments. He made it. It doesn't matter. He has arguments for why acting in a good way is also good for yourself. And it's exactly this. If I tell you, I don't lie, and I don't lie, and I don't stab you in the back, and I'm an honorable person, and I will go above and beyond to stay an honorable person, no matter if I have God or not. And I mean this, and I really, like, even if it's bad for me, I won't lie. Then this is, of course, in this one situation, this may be bad for me, but overall, it will be good for me, because I will build a brand, and people around me will know Elias doesn't lie. Elias wants the best, or Mark doesn't lie. Mark wants the best, and that way, people will start, like, you build your brand, you build like, it doesn't have to be God, doesn't have to be reason for this. It can just be experience, that you always, this person doesn't lie. This person doesn't have to believe in God for you to believe it. But yeah, just that
Fair.
yeah. But for you, I know, because you believe in God, this is a really strong reason. Like, there are other reasons to behave morally, but God is a strong point.
Yeah. But like that, the thing is, like, would your morals, if your morals are just from a point of like survival, then would they stay the same when no one's watching?
Mark would argue yes.
Okay.
Mark would argue, because you never know if something will come into the open, you know? Like, of course, there are situations where you're 99.9% sure that no one is watching, but you never know. And he would argue, just stay true. Stay, like, you decide for, like, a rule, like, I don't lie, you know? And then live by it every moment. Like,
sounds like a good plan.
not even when people, like, don't do, like, excuses. Because if you don't do excuses, the compounding effect of this will be so much greater. This is, like, his argument. That this, like, the compounding effect of people trusting you will be so much greater, and, like, the worth you get from this it's so much better than this one or two situations where lying could give you an advantage, you know? But yeah, because you don't have to have this argument, like, you have the God argument, and this is also a reason why I, for example, will trust you much more than other people, because I know you want the best, you want to do good, you know? And this is somehow an evolutionary advantage that you have.
Not always, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, not always, but the compounding effect maybe is. Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
Another thing.
Sure.
Finding God, what you said. Finding God is emotional, not rational.
I mean, I should rephrase that, you know?
I phrased it this way. You didn't phrase it.
I think no, because, like...
I tried to rephrase what you said, but yeah.
Yeah, because, like, yeah, the topic of, like, finding God is something I'm, like, working on myself. So I would rather not, like, say something wrong. But I think it's just, like, Yeah, I mean, rationality, like it should take you to God. Actually, I take that back. It's not you can't get there through like logic alone, right? Or through one form of like the same kind of reasoning that we apply here. I think you have to have a different form of it or different level, but I think rationality also should take you there. There's also this quote, it's quite interesting. It says, a little bit of science takes you away from God, a lot of science takes you back to him. And yeah, that's a good example of like once you really know, I think you might go back to it. But yeah.
I would love for you to show it to me. Because this is really interesting and impactful. And I think I know what you mean. So rational, like you can believe in God because of rational reasons, but this doesn't mean that you understand God.
Yeah, to fully grasp the idea of God in your head, like you could understand 2 + 2 is 4, I think that might be
impossible.
I think that is impossible. Yeah. And that should be impossible. Because we can't even understand each other 100%. How are we gonna like I can confidently say my mom does not know me 100%, right?
Yeah.
No one knows another person 100%. Yeah. So like we're already gone. Like, so if there's an ultimate consciousness, then and we have like a drop of that consciousness, then how could we understand the ultimate ocean when we don't understand the drop completely? So
I agree.
That's fair then, right?
Mm. Nice man. I really enjoyed talking to you today. I will ask you my last question, but I want to do this again. After the podcast we will talk about when we do this again. And
this was great.
Like 1 hour debate. The other point we have to talk about is also the premises and building up, because we didn't even start.
I mean, I kind of got them in, but like it's still
but still, like to really go on to it. But my closing question that I always use is the question.
Which book I would
which you know it. It's okay. I can tell it for people listening that don't know it. It's what book, what YouTube video, what podcast, like what kind of distilled knowledge would you advise people to read, listen to, watch? And it's one thing. It's not one book, one YouTube video, one podcast. It's you have
okay, fair enough. Okay, let me think.
If you come again, you can say something else the next time.
I can just use that as
no problem. But now you have to say one thing.
What if I make a zip file of all the books and then it's one file?
I think you have to come on my podcast really often, and each time you can say something new. So that's a chance.
So this book is called Revelation, Rationality, Knowledge and Truth.
Revelation, Rationality.
I'll send you the link to it right now. It's free online.
Yeah.
It's 42 MB. It's like a lot of pages.
Yeah.
But
what is it about?
It's about everything. So it takes different Islamic perspectives on life, and then it talks about European philosophy, Greek philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Zoroastrianism. Can't even say it. The question of suffering. So a lot of people, especially ask religious people, why is there suffering if there's a God? And he explains that with science. He talks about secular views. He talks about the concept of God in people in Australia. Basically talks about the concept of God in a lot of different places. He argues that the true source of knowledge is revelation. So people who have reached a stage where they can talk to God through dreams or visions, that is the true source, and even scientific discoveries that have been aided in this way. Talks about cosmology, talks about entropy and how the universe started, talks about if there's aliens or not. There's one huge part on evolution, which I think would be very cool. I actually want to read this again as well. I read this a long time ago. I really want to reread this. So it talks about the origin of life, photosynthesis and clay and how people are made, survival by accident or design. So that argues, is evolution like this mindless creature or this mindless concept, or is it by design? Because we do believe in evolution because it's science and it's proven, but we think that it's evolution, it's like guided evolution. That evolution is a process that God has implemented. Natural selection and survival of the fittest. He He also argues a lot of, talks about a lot of Richard Dawkins' arguments, so he counters them, and genetic engineering and stuff, and it's all with the context of science and Islam.
Nice.
So you're gonna get both, like you're gonna get like verses, religious verses, but you're also gonna get scientific ideas. So I think that is pretty cool. It's a very big book, but you can just, it's not interconnected in every way, so you can just skip to any chapter you want. I'll send you the link to it, and
Nice.
it's free.
I will put it into the show notes. Can you say the title again?
Revelation, Rationality, our favorite word, Knowledge and Truth.
Okay.
I'll send you the link as well, so it's easy to find.
Nice. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. This is really cool.
I really, really enjoyed this. I could have kept talking for like, I don't know, hours.
What time is it? It's 6.
It's 6. Yeah. Okay, man. So.
No, before I go, can I say one quote? It's my favorite
100%.
quote. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Please.
No, before I do that, it's like, this was really fun, and I was watching the previous episodes, and I can see how curious you are. And like, it's really refreshing, and it's really cool to see, honestly. Like, you said something that I wrote down.
Tell me.
I really like this quote by you.
Okay.
Everything I've tried turned out to be meaningless except searching for meaning. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool. That's genuinely really cool.
Yeah.
But
This is pretty much a good definition of this podcast.
yeah,
as well.
yeah, I think that's like the
True.
subtitle,
Yeah.
Okay, this is one of my favorite quotes. I recently found it, and it has to do with the idea of like being of service to others. It's quite long. Okay, it's by George Bernard Shaw, and it says, "This is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it what I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations." I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
good.
That's a really good ending. Bro, we do this again, and then
We'll do this again.
This has been a Rational Optimization podcast. I hope you learned something.
As you may know, I'm trying to make this podcast as good as possible. Like, I'm trying to provide as much value as I possibly can in every episode to you. So today I'm not asking you for like a 5-star review or anything like this. I'm asking you, could you please, if you have any idea what I can improve to make this podcast, or to make each episode, or to just make this episode, if I would do it again, more valuable to you, can you give me feedback? Like on Spotify there are those feedback boxes, and on YouTube you can write a comment. It would be really amazing if you would help me to make this podcast as good as possible. See you in the next one.